Well, welcome everybody. A little bit of history of how I got into this role. We implemented HIPAA, and we said, oh, gee, we need a HIPAA privacy or security officer. You want to be that? And I go, how hard can it be? So after a day, I became the Department of Community Health Security Officer. How hard could that be? Well, you know, as you heard recently about the 4 million records breached, individuals, it's very difficult. And no matter what controls you have in place, you still have individuals that cause some of the issues that we have. And we can't stay, up with all of the hackers. As soon as we figure them out, they're figuring out something else. And so we have to be really smart. We have to work together. Why are we doing this seminar? Why do we think that this is important to have a whole day's worth of discussion about cybersecurity? Well, because we can't do it alone. We have to all work together and be able to come up with some solutions and try to, inform others, lessons learned. A lot of times organizations don't want to share some of this kind of information. And I think we've got a lot of things that are in place right now that I think people feel secure, confident enough that they can share some of that information and know that really that's the best thing to do, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to do this. One of our missions is that we don't want to be in the paper. You want to be in the paper for good, positive things, and some of these are just, it really scares people. When we talk about health information exchange, we want to be able to share information. We want people to trust us that we're securing their information. And when these incidents occur, we always have to take a step back, because then people, if we think we're starting to get them close so they trust us, then they hear this and go, well, maybe not. And, the government is prime target for information, obviously. And healthcare, we have the highest breaches in healthcare now, and it's prime information. It's a lot of information for many different things, so we really have to work together. We need to take a look at identity, management, privacy, and security all together. Every time, we have a privacy officer, and people get really confused. Do I go to the security officer, or do I go to the privacy officer? Well, you know what? We work very closely together. So they're in the legal office, and we don't ever do anything without our privacy officer working alongside us. So we've got a really good working relationship. So you need to look at privacy, security, identity, management, all together and in the same context. We have to have ongoing communications, we have to have ongoing training, we have to have, some of our, little sessions that we have, to be prepared for any of these cyber attacks and so forth. And when we've gone through some of those within the state, it's been a real lessons learned. Like, we think that, people understand what they're supposed to do, and then we find out, they didn't quite understand it the way that we were hoping that they did. So that gives us an opportunity, at least in a positive way, to be able to make some adjustments, as opposed to having a true risk and a hack and trying to, have to deal with it at that point. So, a lot of the things that we're doing today that we talked about, and I think for any of you that were here last year and we talked about our identity, credential, and access management that we're implementing at the state, that has a lot more security controls than what we currently have today. And as we implement that, then we'll be able to do the multi-factor authentication at a different level than what we're doing in some situations today. And also the whole idea of the federated approach. And that's one that's a little difficult for some people to really understand what that means. But if an organization wants to be able to use their credentials and access information at the state, that they have the authority to be able to access. That's what we want to be able to establish. So you don't have to be in one system, go out into another system. So there's some situations, say Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, that access some of our information, but they also have their, network that they have to be in. So they would have to be in both of them at the same time. Well, the way that we want to be able to do this is that they could utilize their network if they meet all of the standards that we require to be able to access those systems at the state, that they would normally have to go in and log into a different system. And then we could do the same, that we could utilize our credentials to get into their system. So as an individual, if I need to get into one of their systems that we have, agreed to, that I normally have to go into a different system, I could just access it through our credentials. And so we think that that's really going to be a time saver. What we want to do within the state is to make it a real positive experience for whoever is accessing information at the state and the business that they need to do at the state. We want to be able to go in once, be able to connect to all the different systems that we need to in order to be able to do our jobs. We want an individual to be able to come in, a citizen, and be able to get access to all of their information. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to have it under a very controlled situation that we think that identity access and our credential management system will allow us to be able to do. So I think, in closing and before we hand it over, I just want to thank everybody again for coming here. And, really we need to have the security communities and working together, ongoing, constantly sharing information. So this isn't the only situation that you have during the year. Obviously, there's a lot of other situations or conferences and workshops that you will have the opportunity to be able to participate in, and I hope that you do that because, as I mentioned, we all have to do this together. We can't do it individually. So thank you.